Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack. In today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Greg Harney. Greg is currently playing in the Federal Prospects Hockey League for the Delaware Thunder. This is Greg's first official pro season, where he has played with the Port Huron Prowlers and the Delaware Thunder this season so far. He also got a call up to the SPHL's Vermilion County Bobcats earlier this season. Greg played his junior hockey days in the SIJHL and the MJHL before attending 4 years of NCAA Division III college hockey at Framingham State University before turning pro. So this is going to be a good episode. So welcome to the show, Greg Harney.
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. How have you been? I know it's an off day for you. So how's this off day been treating you?
Oh, very nice. Always take advantage of the off days. But yeah, it's been last few weekends for us been interesting. Had a few 3-3s, so those are always draining and exhausting. So yeah, definitely everyone's in the same boat. We try to take advantage of the time off that we get for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of hockey when you're doing 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
How does that get on your body? Does it get pretty taxing?
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you're, obviously from the goalie standpoint, when you're 3-3 is tough. Like usually they don't. I've seen a couple teams they'll throw the same guy 3 nights in a row. It's really hard to do. But even if you do 2 back-to-back nights, it's definitely a tough thing to do. But yeah, definitely got to take care of yourself, fluids, rest, ice, everything. So
have you had to go 3-3, or are you just like back to back?
I did it
and rest day and then again.
Yeah, this year I've done a couple back-to-backs earlier on. I have done 3-3 before, probably back in junior in the SI for the minors a few times. That was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, at least you get some sort of rest day. You're not going at it all 3 games.
For sure.
Yeah, but start things off here. Like, can you give our viewers a little background information on yourself, like when you started playing hockey, why you started, and what youth hockey was like for you growing up in East Haven, Connecticut?
Sure thing. Well, when I first started, even just skating, even before hockey, I really wanted nothing to do with it. I'd go out to like public skate and just falling all over the place and throwing a fit and a tantrum about it. I wasn't too pleased. So for about 2-3 years, I kind of just stayed away from it completely. And then I don't know what led me to give it another go. So I just started skating again at like a public skate type of thing. And I enjoyed it. And then from there, I was like, oh, I think I actually wanted to play hockey. Obviously, my dad, he played growing up. I think that had a lot to do with it for me. I started off as a forward for the earlier years, like house and whatnot. And then one day they're like, well, we want the classic story. Who wants to give goalie a shot for us today? And for whatever reason, I I raised my hand.
Whatever crazy reason.
Yeah. But I think, again, my dad, he was a goalie growing up. So I think that was kind of the thing that inspired me to try and do it. So gave it a shot. I ended up enjoying it, and yeah, here we are, just sticking with it here.
Yeah, all about second chances and finding that love for the game after that second go around.
Sure, yeah. I started off playing my first ever year as a goalie. That was my Bees. I played with in Hamden, Connecticut. They have a really good history of hockey there, especially with the high school program. So I started off youth hockey there before we ended up moving back to East Haven. My dad wanted to be closer to my nanny over there. That's his mom, and so I ended up that was my first year on the Might A team playing there, and that's when I really started to get into committing to hockey and enjoying playing the position of goaltender. So that's kind of where I learned to love the game and the position, and I decided I wanted to keep moving up the ladder and end up going to play AAA after that. So.
Yeah, what was that first experience with goalie like when you somehow some reason were like, yeah, I'll give goalie a shot for that one game? Like, do you remember how that game went?
Uh, such a long time ago. This is the only thing I could say I've done for 20 years now, which is that's dating myself. It makes me feel so old when I say that. But yeah, just taking it in on how different it was. And obviously when you're first starting out, you don't really have everything, you're trying to play in player skates and that. So
Yeah.
it was a little difficult at first. I'm like, this is gonna take some getting used to. But yeah, I loved it. I just loved the just being on your own, that type of thing, and having to getting a lot of weight on your shoulders, ultimately being the guy who can decide the outcomes of games. That was something that I really took into and I enjoyed. So that's really, I think, what made me want to keep doing it.
Yeah, you're on the ice for the entire game. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to go to the bench unless the worst case, you get pulled, you
Oh,
gain.
yeah.
But you're on the ice every time you step on the ice as a starting goalie.
Right.
Yeah. So then your youth hockey team was called the Connecticut Wolves, where you played AAA before playing for your local high schools. Like, what was youth hockey like for you growing up in the Wolves organization? I know you said it's like one of the better organizations. So like, what was it like growing up in that organization?
I was definitely privileged. I was lucky to have that experience for sure. Even now, if playing travel hockey in youth hockey it's crazy what you have to pay, especially from a family, from parents, what they have to pay for their kids. So I know even my dad, he had to make sacrifices. He was just working in, a regular job, going in early in the morning, coming home 5, 6 o'clock at night. And then he was even the master scheduler for our whole organization. So he did that to kind of help us. Joel helped me to get some money off financially for me to keep playing AAA. So I'll never forget that. But just to see the jump from playing, like my local team in East Haven to go to that, it was to see the jump forward was crazy. By the end of it, once I got to like squirts and bantams, we had changed into the Atlantic Youth Hockey League, which I believe they might have changed the name around a little bit now. But growing up, I played against guys. Once I went to AAA, I was playing against guys like I was playing against William Nylander, Tony D'Angelo, Johnny Hayden. And so just to see all those guys that you grow up with and see them playing now, and you look back on it, it's just crazy. So it only helped me get better and maybe embrace the competition being raised up a level. So I definitely credit that and to my development as a goalie and as a person for sure.
Yeah, was William Nylander as good as he is now when he was growing up in the youth world?
Well, yeah, you got to remember he's a 96, so he was playing up against us, and he's still putting up like 2-3 points a game. He played for the Greenwich Blues because Michael Nylander, his father, was still he was still playing in the NHL at the time. He was on the New York Rangers toward the end of his career, so that was the closest travel team for him that he could play on. So of course I was lucky enough to have to play against him a few times, but yeah, it was great to play against that type of caliber of talent for sure.
Probably got dangled or saw some nasty dangles.
Better
just
believe it.
Geek around you, just embarrass you.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things you look back on. You're like, well, that's why he is where he is now. So,
but I'm sure you made some glove saves on him, and you have to snap it even more when you get like a player like that, and like you just gotta like snap it more.
For sure. Just growing up with playing on the Wolves, I met so many great people through the organization, just my teammates, just to see them develop and continue to play on through the high school and the college ranks. It's been really cool to me to keep up with. Once we switched leagues, it was a bit of an adjustment for us. You could tell other teams had a bit more pool of talent to pull from. But we battled every game. I loved it, just being on the team, getting a lot of shots, and to continue to work on myself and be better. So I definitely embraced the opportunity.
Yeah, what were some of like your favorite memories from growing up in youth hockey, and especially like with the Wolves organization?
I'd have to say we did the Quebec Pee Wee tournament there in Quebec City at the Colisée where the Ramparts play. So being able to experience that was definitely the best moment. Just playing in the Colisée for the one game that we got. We ended up losing 2-1 to the Junior Avalanche, but just to be there and to be around the arena and even watch the finals of how many people are there to watch these kids play, it was a really special week there. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then after your days in AAA, you go on to play high school and high school hockey in West Haven. So like what was high school hockey like for you? And like when was that time that you realized you wanted to take hockey to the next level after high school to go to juniors and then college?
High school was was an interesting time. I bounced around. I started off at East Haven High School as a freshman. I got into a few games, got my feet wet through that, which I definitely, even though you like to be playing every game, I valued that time being, that was kind of the first time where I had to learn that there's not going to be a scenario where you're not necessarily the guy in net all the time. So I
Yeah.
definitely took that as a learning experience and getting my feet wet in terms of the older guys shooting on me and whatnot. But once my sophomore year came around, I transferred to Notre Dame West Haven. It just kind of worked out that they had their senior goalie had graduated, so there was an opening for a younger guy to come step in. I had some guys that I knew on the team who were older than me. They had heard of me through playing through the Wolves and whatnot, and they're like, they kind of spoke to the coach and they helped me out a bit and pumped my tires a little bit. Like, he's young, but we think if we're going to be young and there's a guy that we can take a chance on, we think we should do it with him. So I ended up transferring there and just one of those seasons, where everything kind of just goes your way. It was statistically for me, it was like the best season I've ever had personally. And one of probably the biggest step forward I took in one season was that year. That's kind of what brought me the confidence to want to. I was like, okay, I think I have something here where I can keep going through the ranks and maybe more open to looking into what prep school hockey was and seeing that type of level of competition as well. So, yeah, I definitely value my time in Notre Dame West Haven. That was also one of the closest knit teams that I've been on throughout my whole life. I still talk to a lot of those guys, and I think about those times a lot in my spare time when we get together. So it's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say like that was like the time you realized where you probably developed the most like throughout those high school and prep hockey days that like really got you like that confidence and really helped you develop your game to the next level?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I had a couple of tough goes as a freshman when I came off the bench in East Haven and giving up a good amount of goals off the bench in a couple of games. So, as low as a feeling as it is, you take that for what it's worth. You're like, okay, like this is the standard. This is what is expected. This is the level of play that you got to be accustomed to. So after getting that experience, you kind of got to go through the tough times and the tough days to have brighter days. So from learning from that, I was able to put it all together that year, and I just knew going in that I was dialed in and I was kind of on a mission to prove myself.
Yeah. So from what you learned, what you have learned like now in your pro career, like when you do come off the bench, like what's your mindset when you do come off the bench and to not give up those goals like you did in high school when you come off the bench?
Just gotta take it for what it is. You just gotta like, okay, like things aren't really going so well at the moment. You're here to stop the bleeding. You're here to just give your team as best a chance to win the game or get back into the game as you can. So just control what you can control and just keep pushing forward. And then hopefully, as you get older and older, it's more and more of a team sport. So hopefully, the guys in front of you, they respond to the goal of the change in net and they help you out as much as they can too. So it's definitely a two-way street there for sure.
Yeah, as long as you're doing everything you can to keep your team in the game and keep at least the score somewhat close. Doesn't could be like 6-1 by that point when you get in, but like you're still keeping the boys in the game and just hopefully they get some momentum from that and just it helps the game go on and move a little bit more freely and more fluidly.
For sure.
Yeah. So then throughout like your high school days, you also went on to prep hockey. So like what made you choose like the prep hockey route instead of going from high school to juniors, but go high school prep and then juniors?
Well, definitely had a lot to do with close family friends of mine. Paul Falanga is someone from back home that I'm really close with him and his family. He actually attended Trinity Pawling a couple of years before I did. So that was kind of my first gist of learning what it was and what prep school hockey was. And for those who are unfamiliar with hockey in the New England and like tri-state area, the Founders League, which is the league that Trinity Pawling plays, and it's got a pretty rich history of promoting and moving on a lot of like good talent of hockey players, playing against schools like Avon Old Farms and Salisbury. It's pretty rich heritage. So learning all that and then going to the games to watch him and just see how the level of play was definitely a bit faster, stronger, harder shots. It was definitely something that it wanted to push me more. And it's like, that's what I want to get to as well. And you also see how guys are moving on to college, whether it's high end D3 schools and some guys are going D1 and even to the minor pro ranks. So I just knew that once I committed myself to being serious about goaltending and the position in the game of hockey, that this would be a necessary thing that would only make me better as a player.
Yeah, and it also like gives you that time to develop even more, because usually like you will have like other goalies that I've talked to will have like a little skid in their high school career, and then they'll go to prep and develop more and more and gain that more confidence. So what do you say, like obviously you had a pretty good high school career that first or second year, like you said, and just that going to prep like really like help your confidence move on to juniors and like help yourself just gain that motivation to keep going?
Oh, absolutely. There's a quote I've heard years ago, and I still, it's one of my favorites still. It's goaltenders are like a fine wine; they get better with age, and I still stick to that. Even now, I'm like, there's better and better days coming. Even though you've been doing it for so long, and you're a little sore, a little more than you used to be, but that's the way to do it. I mean, just like contribute your time, buy in, and yeah, you get to pay your dues. Keep working on the little things, get repetitive, and you'll only see positive results from that for sure.
Yeah, you gain those necessary experiences. Like you never know what you're gonna face, and then once those happen, like that boosts your confidence, and then like you just keep getting better and better every single year with that development period, and just it gets like muscle memory at that point. You're just
Sure.
able to just continue to do reps and reps and reps, and eventually it's gonna something's gonna add up and something's gonna work.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So then before we go on, tell your junior career a little bit here, like what are some of your favorite memories playing high school and prep hockey?
Definitely the first half of the season with Notre Dame West Haven. At one point, I think we were 9-2 or 10-2. We were the top team in the state. We ended up beating Fairfield Prep, which in Connecticut high school hockey, it's a pretty big deal that they ever lose a game. So we actually beat them. It was a 3 o'clock or a 2 o'clock game on a Sunday afternoon on their senior night at home. And I think someone said it was the first time that they had lost on that type of a day or an occasion in like 25, 30 years. So
Oh,
that was absolutely ridiculous of a day for us. And I remember it for me too. It was a busy day. They always had a good team. They always put the puck on net. I think they had just under 50 shots on me the game that we
wow.
played. We walked out of there. We won 3-2. That's a game that'll always stick out for me. Kind of like those games where you just black out after it happens and you're like, I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah, it's
But
a big ego boost for sure.
for sure. And then as far as Trinity Pollock, playing in the Avon Christmas tournament was a very special occasion. How heavily scouted that is, even by just colleges, major junior teams, even
I
some
bet.
NHL or affiliates and whatnot
Wow.
of their lower levels. That was another special thing. And then Cho Rosemary Hall, they're in the Founders League division as well. So they're in Connecticut. So we actually ended up beating them my second year there. So that was pretty sweet too. To always beat the team that's in your backyard growing up. So
Yeah, always awesome to beat teams that are ahead of you and like you're close rivals with. Like always good to beat those teams.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then after high school and prep, you move on to junior hockey, where you start your first year of juniors with the English River Miners and the SIJHL. So what was the process like to sign to play juniors with English River?
So I was kind of just doing a bit of digging into both my father and I, and just trying. We knew that being I was more open to going to see what the talent of hockey was like out in Canada, and it can only be good for your resume as someone you could show that you're willing to move far away from home and be out of your comfort zone to go play against that type of competition. So based on our research, we found the SIJHL, and then it was Tier 2 Canadian League. And I saw that English River, it was going to be their expansion season, their first year of joining the league. So obviously when you see that, nothing's really set in stone. There's a lot of open spots. Go in and make a move. So I kind of just went out to like the standard free agent camp, or I guess it was their main camp in a way. I initially had signed on as a third goalie there because they had a guy from Thunder Bay who they were pretty high on. They knew the coach knew from years before. And then another good friend of mine, Petey Malgoza, was one of the other goalies as well. So we both ended up sticking around, and the initial first guy that was there, he ended up moving on to other things with outside of the game of hockey. So it was Petey and I for the minors, and it was just being in Canada, moving to Red Lake, Ontario is where I billeted with the Pace family, Karen and Pevy Pace. I had them for both years that I was there. They're the best. I miss them. Just to go from living, in the big city, like being near Boston and New York, to move to Red Lake, Ontario, where the population is 4,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And I always use this analogy, or this reference. The nearest McDonald's to me was 2.5 hours away, where I was
That
living.
explains where you were.
Oh yeah,
middle of nowhere.
Yep. But just to see the game of how the game is played in Canada compared to growing up playing in the States, it definitely was a different style of play, and you definitely took it as a learning experience for sure. I'm definitely grateful for my time there and the opportunity to play as many games there as I did, and meet the people that I did. It'll always be a special place in my heart for sure.
Yeah. So like, what was that transition, that adjustment, especially going from the United States to playing hockey in Canada, where it's like bread and butter there? Like you're getting nothing better than the top tier of hockey in Canada.
For sure. I would say I don't want to say this is like the typical thing that people will say about comparing the US and Canada, but I do need to say it is kind of accurate. The US is definitely more finesse. It's more of a skating and trying, be fancy with the puck type of a game. In Canada, you can see it's all work your bag off, and you got to grind out wins. You're getting more dirty goals than pretty goals. Just that type of style of hockey. The physicality of it is much more visible and apparent in Canada than it was from when I was growing up in the States, for sure. I have to say that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like throughout like all these adjustments that you had to make, like what are some of the biggest things you learned from that first year of juniors, especially with getting into 28 games that first year, which is quite a bit for a guy coming in for your first year?
For sure. Getting more and more confident as time went on. Once you get the earlier games out of the way, even for me, I actually started the first game in the organization's history. It was on the road.
Really?
Our closest rival there, the Dryden Ice Dogs. And that was another thing. I was just kind of, it's good to be a little bit nervous before. It's normal. So yeah, going into that, you can imagine how I was. I wasn't really expecting it, being the guy who signed as a third guy initially. But once we lost like 3-2. We played well. It was a good game for me. I had a good amount of shots. Once I got that out of the way, and I was like, okay, I expected the adjustment to be a little longer for me, but once I got that first game out of the way, I feel like my confidence naturally just came a little like more and more quickly than I thought it would. So that was huge for me.
Yeah, and I feel like once you get that first game out of the way, you're like all the nerves set aside, because when leading up to that first game, you're like, you have all the jitters and everything that's like full wave of emotion. And then once you get that first game out of the way, that's when you get at least a little bit more comfortable than what you were with the first game.
For sure.
Yeah. So like throughout like your first year of juniors, like did you have any expectations going into your first year? Or were you just like, I'm gonna go with the flow, go with the punches a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough to expect things, just like I said, just being after playing in the US my whole life, and this being my first time internationally, going to Canada and seeing that type of style of play there, I kind of couldn't really have much to look forward to, expect or look forward to. And then being unfamiliar with the league itself, So yeah, it was kind of more just roll with the punches and just, gain your confidence and do you at that point. Just keep rolling as you get more and more time in the net, and keep be really taking that time in practice to adjust to the speed of the game, the shots that I'm seeing, and just keep working on myself for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, what was your overall experience playing in the SIJHL for English River, especially since they're a new organization at the time?
I was just anywhere. If you have the opportunity to be a part of an expansion team in their inaugural season, I recommend everyone should do it, especially out there. You don't think there's much, but you go to the rink there and you see all these people. You're like, "There's many people live here," but it was just so loud. Like our rink, it was so funny. We, I think it was a scenario where they were kind of trying to rush getting the team on the ice through the off season. As far as the rink goes, the rink was in Ear Falls, which is it's about 40 minutes from where I lived, where I
Wow.
billeted. So that was, yeah, you had some days in the car every day for practice and going to the games, but it was an old curling rink. So in the middle of winter, it was just like you could just see icicles everywhere and just snow. It was just so cold in there, called the ice box. But
Wow.
that experience in itself, just to see the community come together and just doing things. My first time doing things around the community, like going to the schools for the kids and helping out those less fortunate and whatnot. It was definitely a different thing for me, and I value those experiences for sure. And that's all on top of taking in the level of hockey and the adjustment of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a viewer Q&A question, but it literally goes in with what we're talking about. Like, what was your favorite memory from English River?
Favorite memory. I remember this one game, well, aside from, just all the moments with the guys off the ice, of course, but we won't get into
Of
those.
course. Yeah, those are
But
those are to
I
be told
remember
off
this.
camera.
Yeah, yeah. I remember this one game specifically. I believe it was the Sunday of the Grey Cup, which is the CFL like Super Bowl over there.
Yeah.
We were playing the Minnesota Iron Rangers, and we were down 5-2 going into the third period. And I ended up going. They ended up throwing me in the net there, and we're just like, we're good here. Like everyone was like, we're good, we're fine. And we ended up having a phenomenal period. Battled back to we're tied, and then we ended up winning the game like right at the
Oh,
buzzer, 6-5.
dang.
So that was we were just fired up after that and had ourselves a night. I remember that specifically, but yeah, even the second season we started off pretty kind of behind the pile, I guess you could say. Our first win didn't come for a while. We ended up getting that win a few games in and at Minnesota and at the Iron Rangers rink there. That was a big night too for us. So that was huge, getting the monkey off our back for that season. But yeah, I mean, there's so many that I could blank out. I'm blanking out and I'm probably forgetting. But yeah, those are always two that stuck out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But that second year you're in English River, you played 43 games, so you got that chance to really be the starter and go from that third string to that starting role. It's like, what was different about that second year compared to that first year, and just having that ability, that confidence to just play more games and be on your game when you needed to be?
Yeah, that year was something else for me. I remember at the end of it, I had a physical at the end of the year with my doctor, and they like did blood work or whatever, and he goes, "Well, yeah, it makes sense why you're a little tired and whatnot. It says here that you just got over a case of mono," and
Oh,
I had no idea, and I was just getting rolled out there every game. Played 43 games. I mean, I look back on it now, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, like you said, just getting more and more comfortable from gaining more games in the first season, and it was definitely valuable for me. Um, the second year going into it, I kind of knew what to expect. We had lost a lot of guys who were 20 years old. They were definitely our key players on the team in terms of scoring goals and providing offense. I want to say that we went younger. We had some 16-year-olds on our team coming out from high school there, and they weren't bad players at all by any means. But just having a younger team in a league that they're trying
yeah.
to load up for the Dudley Hewitt, which is your way to get to the RBC in Canada. So we were, in terms of that, we were definitely a younger team. So you knew we were going to have to take some punches along the way. Yeah, that year, a lot of shots that year. But just being so used to it and going through youth and I think the organization recognized that with my background and they saw, that I could carry the load from the first season there when, things weren't going so well and we were getting pinned down with some shots there. So just having the confidence in me to go out in that second year and get more games and know what to expect with the younger team, I think that was definitely a mutual thing that we understood. And yeah, I just try to do everything I could the best I can, give the team a chance to win and only control what I can control.
Yeah. Was that the year that you probably played 3 games in 3 days?
Oh, better believe it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Better
you
believe it.
gotta love when you get thrown into 3 games when you're playing already 40 plus games in the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the following year after you played in English River, you played in 33 games in the MJHL, where you went 8-21-3 with I'm not even gonna say the where it's from,
Yeah.
but the Wolverines.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, what was that year like for you and having to learn from the difficulties of getting wins?
Yeah. The way Sakapo Wolverines. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time for me. After my second year with the minors, it was to a point where it's not that I thought I was above the SIJHL. It was more to a point where I kind of wanted to take another step forward. The MJ is up there, it's not as strong as other leagues like the Alberta Junior Hockey League or the BCHL.
Yeah.
It was definitely a step up from where I was. I kind of was interested in that. I was like, I would at least like to have 1 year of trying to play in any of those leagues to see like what it's like and where I'd stack up. So yeah, getting out, I had to get traded there. It was a tough conversation to have with, the organization that you were there for their first 2 years of operations. And I have nothing bad to say about that at all. And I'm appreciative of them to accommodating me to get that experience. But yeah, way, it was good. I mean, it was a tough season for us and myself. I definitely felt like I should have been better. Um, the town I lived in, I was a nice area to live in. I was living in Russell, Manitoba, and we had a great group of guys. They did work hard, and we all got along really well. Um, but yeah, you could tell there was just some teams that were ahead of us. You had guys like I remember the Portage Terriers they were always up there. They're contending every year for RBC Cup. They had these two brothers on the team, the Bowles brothers. They had both had 100 points like every year they played. Zach Whitecloud was in our league that year. Brady Keeper was on the OCN Blizzard. He plays for the Panthers organization now. So in terms of that, we didn't really have caliber guys like that. So we were a little bit behind everybody else. But yeah, we did what we could and tried to battle each night. So that's all you can ask for in that scenario.
Yeah, exactly. So do you think you learned a lot from that year, especially like when it comes to like mindset? Because like when everything's not going as well as you plan, like as a goalie, like everything gets stressful and like you get pissed off, you get so mad that you let in a little squeaker, a batting a goal, whatever. And like, do you think that really like helped you learn from like the mindset point of view and just how to keep a positive mindset throughout the game, even if things aren't going right?
For sure. I mean, growing up, I felt like that was one of the strengths that I had for me personally was even with talking to my dad when we would talk about like after games and whatnot. He's like, at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
You can't you'll drive yourself mad if you think about every little thing that you could have done differently, or even sometimes like me, I'm my toughest critic at the end of the day. I'll even there's even times now like where in a game where I'll get scored on in a certain scenario and I'm like, oh hey boys, like my bad on that, and they're just like, what do you mean, like it's not on you. So if you're someone who's like that, it could be tough, and
Yeah.
it could drive you crazy for sure. So you always just like I said, we just gotta at the end of the day, you just got to stay true to you and worry about what you can control. And if things happen along the way, mistakes, you just got to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you wrap up your junior career, you go on to college where you commit to play Division III hockey for Framingham State University. So why was Framingham State the right school for you?
So it's actually even in college, I keep bouncing around, but I initially had committed to Stevenson University. That was going to us another thing where they were going to have their inaugural season, and I was going to be one of the guys involved. And it was a scenario where the coach told me one thing, and when I got there, it kind of didn't really add up at all. He just said that it was going to be myself and two other guys that we were all the same age. We were all going to be freshmen, And, whoever looks the best out of leading up to the season, they'll end up being the starter for out of the gate. And they ended up having a guy who came in like as a D1 transfer from AIC, like who was like 3 years older than us, or like it's like, and we kind of found out about it once to get the skates were starting. So right away, I wasn't really too pleased with that. But at the end of the day, I get it. Like if you're going to be a new program, you kind of need to fill spots. So I understood that after the fact. So I ended up transferring to Framingham. I had two guys that I knew from growing up in Connecticut that played. Mark Estery and Vaughn Geetons were there. They were seniors, and it was a scenario where they're like they were looking to have someone else come in potentially and try and make a difference. And I was someone who came to mind, and they checked in on me since I was at Stevenson. I'm like, well, it's funny that you contacted me because I'm kind of thinking of maybe doing something different here. Over winter break, I basically had to transfer like before I even attended a class. I actually had played like 4 or 5 games before I even attended a class at Framingham, just the way that I was able to get it done. But yeah, I mean, just talking to the coach, it was a scenario where I went into the room to meet with him, and I was like, yeah, it's just kind of based on what it's like here and how it's been going for me. I think I have an opportunity elsewhere, and I'm going to end up transferring here after the fall semester. And he was like, well, what opportunity do you think you have there that you don't have here? And I was like, well, maybe getting into a game would be cool. There was some games where I wasn't dressing at Stevenson either. So I knew it was a scenario that wasn't going to be good for me in my development. So I went forward with going to Framingham. And yeah, I definitely got lucky. I mean, not everybody gets to get thrown right into the net as a starter when they get there, especially like as a guy who's a freshman. So for me to get those games earlier on and get that experience, it definitely, without a doubt, made me, it helped develop me and get me up to speed at the college ranks for sure.
Yeah. So like, what was that adjustment to like with everything happening like on the outside, like with transferring, going from Stevenson to Framingham, and just being able to just get thrown in there as a starter and just play games and just get that quality, that like those quality reps that you need to be a good starter and also develop as well.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it in the sense that it just kind of, it happened right away. You don't really have time to sit there and be nervous or think about it, just kind of doing it live. So just for me to do that, like over break, transfer and get thrown in right away, I think getting right to it helped me. It made me just see for myself and just react. I always find that the games where I play the best, and I'm sure there's other people like this, it seems like you're not even thinking at that point. You're just kind of reacting to
Yeah, I'm
everything.
one of those people
Yeah,
too.
it's just like no outside noise. So once I got into the groove with that and at the college ranks, that's when I knew that I was comfortable and I can keep moving forward.
Yeah. So like, was that like one of the biggest things you learned throughout that first year is just gain that confidence and moving forward and just controlling what you can control, because a lot of things you can't control happen to you with like the thing at Stevenson and all that, but just being able to be in that present moment at that time really helped you develop and gain that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being used to, having thick skin too, like going to Framingham, it was kind of another scenario where we struggled to win games. Offensively, we struggled to put the puck in the net. So just from even like towards the end of junior and through those years at Framingham, it's really tough to be on teams where you essentially need to be perfect to even have a chance of winning a game. So, I mean, I tried not to take that too heavily on myself. And like we keep saying, just worrying about what I can do and put my team in the best position to succeed. I obviously would have loved to have had more wins under my belt in college, but I'm still pleased with the effort that I put forth, and my teammates are always supportive of me too. Even things like coming up after me every game and just saying like, keep doing you, like this isn't on you, like we're glad you're here. Just little things like that. It's what makes you want to keep going and put on the pads each day. So I appreciated all those little things along the way for sure. Definitely made me stay positive and just kept going back to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So then your second year, you got to play in 17 games. So like, what was it like to see yourself develop from your first year to your second year and gain those extra games that you played and just be able to go into year two and succeed?
Just getting to see what to expect with the conference that I was in. I was in the MassCat conference for Division 3. just knowing what to expect with the speed and the shots and what type of team I had in front of me. I knew that I had to be, as mentally attentive as I could to taking in the ice each time. Um, I had a coach who he really believed in me too. He was very high on me, and it was one of those things where even though we lost the game or whatever, he just like, that you're back in the net the next night. Like, we're
Yeah.
gonna keep calling you. Like, you're not the problem. So that was cool. After my second year, we ended up having a coaching change when the team kind of went in a very different direction. I feel like athletics had a lot to do with it as well. I think it kind of turned into a scenario where they wanted to keep everybody happy that was on the team. So
Yeah.
I ended up being kind of I don't want to say a scapegoat, but I definitely did see a dip in my playing time. The next 2 years, it felt like at one point, no matter what good I did or how much of a chance I gave the team to win, that I would still end up splitting time with whoever was with me at that point. So it was frustrating, but at the same time, just every time I was in the net, I made sure that I was as bought in as I could be and put forth the best effort that I could.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do when those last 2 years, when you do face those obstacles and like you're splitting time? You just like focus on like when you're in the net, like you said, just be 100%, and then as well as like at practice, just take practices like games and just try to just focus in practice even even the same amount as you would in an actual game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm against practice how you play, but I always looked at it like as a goalie from a mental standpoint to be able to do that for a whole season, like take a game as like, or practice as like it's a game. It can be a very exhausting mentally and
Yeah.
physically, like a draining thing. But as far as like you said with that scenario where I was kind of splitting time towards the end, yeah, it definitely made me more open to treating practice a little more game like than I may have normally treated it. I still value it obviously as a very important thing,
Yeah.
but like you said, yeah, definitely that in that scenario, it made me a little more attentive to it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You were on the all academic team for 3 years throughout your college career. So how important was academics to you and just being able to succeed in school and get good grades?
It's pretty funny. I still laugh about it to this day. I felt like I became a better student after taking those 3 years off from playing junior from 18 to 21 with no school. When you go back to it after to go to college for your first year, you're kind of nervous. You're like, I haven't been in school for how many years? Like I gotta look like I know what I'm doing somewhat. So I think I maybe overreacted a little bit because college is I feel like in high school or just in school in general, when you're moving up, they kind of obviously depends what school you go to. Obviously, the workload and the difficulty is going to be tougher. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you just show up and you show up and do the work, put forth your best effort, and if you have a tough grade or your grade slips a little bit, and you just go talk to your professor and just say, hey, like, I'm struggling here. Is there anything I can do, or is there any extra help sessions that I can go to? If you just show that you care even a little bit in college, the teachers will never give you a hard time with passing you or making you like improve your grade as much as they can. So I was definitely one of those people that when that started to happen, I had to buy in. I was like, I got to go to extra help. I got to do this. And they definitely noticed that. So I appreciate that. Anytime they could have helped me out with that. But yeah, by the end of it, I was just so bought into school. I think I finished my last year of college with like a 3.4 GPA. And I can't believe that I did that. But yeah, I definitely, after seeing how important it is moving forward, going back into it in college, it made me want to be the best student that I could possibly be. And that's everything. If you're not hitting the grades there, you can't play. So I mean, you
Yeah.
have to be bought in.
Yeah, absolutely. And like throughout high school, like I struggle with like going up to teachers when like grades fall like they do sometimes. Then once I hit college, like freshman year, like once the grades started dipping, you just go up to your professor and talk to them, and then it's like a magic trick. Like
Yeah.
you actually won't get like the grades you were before, and like they'll actually try to help you.
No, for sure. And then as much as miserable as it is too, and just sit in the front, they're always like, even
Yeah.
like any coach I had, they're like, make sure you guys are sitting in the front, going extra help. And it's true because they see those things. And then when you're sitting in the front, you got to focus, you got all the eyes
Yeah.
on you. So you got to.
Yeah, absolutely. But then after your senior year, you began your quest to play professional hockey, where you're able to sign with the Port Huron Prowlers. So, what was the process like to sign in Port Huron?
I was very grateful to get the opportunity. I initially was supposed to make my pro debut overseas in France for Valencia's Red Devils, and obviously it was during the COVID season, so that wasn't happening. So I kind of ended up taking the year off, and I was just going to a very competitive skate on Thursday nights in Hamden, back home, about 15 minutes from my house. Skating with guys around that were, ex semi-pro or what college guys that played D1 were home, and some semi-pro guys that were home for a little while. So that was like my game each week. That kept me busy. So for not having a spot and having that, I was grateful. But as far as getting to Port Huron after taking the year off, I'm privileged enough to have met Nick Nieder. I've known him for about a decade now. Very well respected, well known
Yeah,
minor pro man himself.
a legend in the minor
Yeah.
pro
Oh,
world.
absolutely, absolutely. Just talking to him, and he's just like, well, "What are you doing?" You just can tell I was stressing out, like trying to figure things out. And it's like, I was in Port Huron. I'm pretty sure they're still looking for somebody. If you want, I could reach out and see what the story is there. And he was nice enough to do that for me. And I ended up speaking to Matt Graham, one of the GMs with the team, and yeah, it ended up we had a good conversation, and he ended up signing me for this the start of this season. So I was very like I said, very grateful to go from thinking I'm sitting at home, I might be done because I took a year off, to getting a shot to keep playing semi-pro. So very grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like throughout like that time where you're not where you take that year off, you're just doing that competitive skate on Thursdays. Like what was that like, and just being able to just stay in that in like obviously like game shape, I guess you could say, even though it's you're not actually like playing like a hardcore like actual like pro game, but like you're still getting that fast paced action. Like what do you think that benefited? Did you think that benefited you just playing those skates and just grinding out those skates?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I knew going into it, I was like, this is like all I have right now. I need to be as bought in as I could.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have nights where, you give up a few, but yeah, I still bagged myself. I still just bought into it as much as I could, treating it as much of a real game as possible. And we kept scoring all that too for it. So it was pretty easy
Yeah.
to keep it going. And you want to get the win for the boys, obviously. So yeah, without that, I'm not too sure what I would have did. I was with my job at the time. It was kind of hard for me to schedule goalie lessons and find a slot that could work for me, like outside of my work hours and their schedule. Because during the youth season, with whatever teams were having their season, so it was hard to work around that. So I'm very, very happy and relieved that I had that to fall back on during that time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I'm in like that spot right now where I'm finishing out school and then looking to play somewhere next year. And like I just play beer league games, like fast like skate games. And like
Right.
I'll bag myself after games, and I'll just do like 60-second drills continuously for 3-4 reps or whatever it is, and just grind it out, because if you want to get somewhere, like the only way you're going to do it is by working.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's all you can do when you're in that scenario. And then once, you look back on it, you look at it now and you're like, oh, this is, it's not fun that this is all I have. But once you get your chance and you're well prepared for it and you capitalize on it, you're going to realize that it was all worth it in the end for you.
Oh
So
yeah,
definitely working for
absolutely.
that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So like how's this season been for you so far this season? Like you play with Port Huron, and then you're currently with the Delaware Thunder. So like how has the season gone for you overall so far?
Oh, this year has been it's been a lot. Just to go from sitting at home thinking that you might have to be done and it's not on your own terms to get in a shot with Port Huron and then to be traded and called up. It just this whole year has been a lot of highs and lows. But yeah, I just have been taking it in like a sponge and appreciating all of it, even though there's been some frustrating times and some things that I didn't really agree with. It's helped shape me into who I am, and just keeps making me want to focus on being as mentally tough as I can when I get in the net. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you're 4-8 with Port Huron, and you're currently 1-4-1 with the Thunder. So like what was it like getting that first pro win?
oh, it was super special. We won it. We were in Port Huron when we won at the time. Uh, Danbury came in. We beat them 4-3, I believe. So yeah, just getting my first pro win against Danbury, where I grew up an hour away from there in East Haven, Connecticut, was probably probably as special as it could have been for me, someone from Connecticut in the league. So definitely won't forget that one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you go to Delaware, and you and Trevor Babin,
Oh yeah.
friend of the show,
Oh
is
yeah.
helping Delaware get some more wins than the last couple months. So it's on Delaware Thunder's on the uphill trend right now.
Oh, for sure, for sure. When I first got traded here, obviously, you looked at where they were at and whatnot. But once I got here and saw just how the guys are and the effort that everyone puts forth, and I really do mean it when I say that the record that the team has this year from earlier on in the season, it does not reflect the
Yeah.
effort all season and where we're at now. Since I've been here, we've picked up some more guys too. But just everyone is just so positive as they could be. Super nice, funny group of guys. Like, just it made the transition so easy for me once I got here. But yeah, like you said, trending upward right now. Just gonna keep doing what we can. We've been dealing with adversity all year. A lot of guys within, it sounds like injuries have been. It's been an injury plague season. Once
Yeah.
someone gets healthy, other guys get hurt. But everyone's still battled through it. We're gonna keep finishing out the best we can and look forward to see what happens next year for sure.
Yeah, it's nice when you go to a team, and then even though things aren't going like on the stat sheet like statistically well, but like you get that group of guys where like you want to be a part of that group of guys, and like they're working as hard as they can and giving it all. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter like how many wins you get, as long as everyone's out there trying their best and trying their or giving everything they have to the game.
No, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a group that does. There's a lot of promising guys here in terms of talent, and then yeah, just getting to work with Babs. And right away when I got traded, I was like, oh, like me and Babs. I'm like, okay, like it's a fun duo. We're each other's biggest supporter. Get along great with him. I instantly respect him just from doing this interview with you, hearing my background, how I've played on a lot of teams where you're going to be busy and get a lot of shots. So right away that I knew that we mutually have experienced that for throughout our careers. I was really looking forward to working with them, and yeah, I've enjoyed the time with them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this being your first official pro year, like what have you had to learn as a rookie that you have to do if you want to keep moving up the ranks and keep developing at a good rate?
Well, it's all about the little things. I feel like it's a very typical answer, but at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You just got to keep doing you and work sharpening those little things that separate you
Yeah.
from everybody else. As far as being a person or a teammate, you definitely see some cases where there's guys who are maybe younger and they're a little they're comfortable a little too early. Even when I was growing up for junior, I just kind of with veterans and all that, you just kind of want to just stay in your own lane and just be as respectful as you can. Don't be negative, be as positive as you can be, and yeah, just be as positive as a teammate and as a person as you can be. That way your teammates are happy with you and management's happy with you. You don't want to just be negative and labeled a cancer by your teammates or management, because that's something that can easily end your career sooner than you'd like it to. So I think that's, as far aside from performing on the ice, how you treat people and talk to management and people who are a little older than you, that definitely matters. Something that I've
Yeah.
always valued as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just being a good teammate just in the community as well. Like all these fans are coming to watch you, and you play the game and just try to get a win for the city or the town.
For
So
sure.
just being good in the community as well is also it's also a huge thing about being in the pro hockey world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like throughout like your time so far in Port Huron, like who would you say was your biggest rival in Port Huron, and then who's your biggest rival in Delaware?
Oh, it's funny. In Port Huron, I'd have to say Danbury, just because of my connection to Connecticut there, and then here in
Yeah.
Delaware now, it's got to be Port Huron. I mean, just it is what it is. It's how it played out, and yeah, those games will be circled on the calendar from now on. So
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the best games to play in when you have that little connection to Connecticut. Then when you go into Danbury, like you want to win, and then same thing when you're playing Port Huron in Delaware, like you want to win.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So throughout like this year, you've also earned one SPHL call up to the Vermilion County Bobcats. So, like, what was it like getting that SPHL call up?
It was a funny day. Because we were doing a morning skate and it was a scenario where they had told us in Port Huron, they're like, we're probably going to start my, I think it was Corey at the time. Yeah. Corey Simons tonight. And we're probably going to roll you tomorrow. It's like, okay. So I go out when you hear that and, think you're not playing for that night, obviously you'll take a little more shots in the morning skate and bag
Yeah.
yourself a little more. So I did that. Excuse me. And we got off the ice and they called me into the office. They're like, so you got called up to Vermilion. You're gonna go tomorrow. Like you're gonna leave tonight after the game. So we're gonna play you tonight, and you're gonna go there right after the game. I was like, oh, okay. Kind of was like, oh shoot, I wish I didn't bag myself as much as I did. But we ended up playing Carolina. I think we won 6-1. I had a good game and was feeling pretty sky high, as you can imagine. And just packed up the car and Nick Nieder called me. He's the coach there this year. Just like, yeah, bring all your stuff, man. We'll see what happens. Because one of their goalies had gotten called up to the AHL, I believe. So he was up there. So he's like, yeah, I'm not sure how long he's going to be there or how long he'll be here. So just bring as much stuff as you can and we'll go from there. And just, yeah, the wave of COVID though this year, there's another like a second wave of it. It seemed like a lot of guys were out. So there's a lot of goalie turnover, I call it, this year. So I ended up right back to Port Huron within a span of a week only. So I wish I had been there longer. I wish I had gotten a couple of games or a game here, but I still valued the experience for sure. Just to get to see the step up above to the league above the Fed, and to know what it takes to stick around there and see the type of people and the work ethic that they bring is definitely a beneficial thing for me and wants me to keep pushing forward to at some point maybe get back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it all comes full circle, and a buddy for a decade calls, and he's the coach for Vermilion, and you get to go get coached by Nick at the time, and just be able to be there, and like he's also a goalie, so he knows what you go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a good guy to have in my corner, and yeah, I appreciate what he's done for me this year for sure, for getting me to Port Huron, and then even considering me to come up to Vermilion. That was special to me too.
How many hours of a car trip was that?
This year in general is my poor car. I from the start of the year going Connecticut to Port Huron, that was 12 hours. Wow. Then I got called up to Vermilion. I went Port Huron to Vermilion. That was like 6.5, 7. Once they said, yeah, you can, you're going back to Port Huron. They called me. They're like, can you meet us in Danbury for the weekend? And we're going to play you like as soon as you get here. I drove from Vermilion to Danbury 13 hours, played back-to-back nights, and they had like 40 or 50 shots both games. I was just like worn out. And then after that was take my car back to Port Huron. That's another 10 hours. My roommate Stavros Stoilis at the time, he drove most of it, so thank God he was there. And then then I get traded here from Port Huron to Delaware. That was 10.5, I think.
Wow.
So yeah,
your car is taking up the mileage right now.
Yeah, I've definitely made up for the little amount of practice time behind the wheel that I had, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So like what did you learn from that call up in the SPHL, especially since you want to get back to that level?
So you gotta stay positive. Just kind of what I mentioned a little bit earlier on. You gotta stay positive. You gotta be as good a teammate as you can to everybody, to veterans, to guys who are younger than you, rookies. Just be as supportive and positive as you can to those people, and just be a person where it's never in question that your effort is what your effort is. They just know that you're a guy who's going to give it every night, like you're playing like it's your last game ever. So that's all you can work on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all you can do at the end of the day is just play your best, play your heart out, give 110%. That's all you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was your first pro memory or story where you're like, what is going on right now?
In terms of like it's kind of a funny story, or
okay. Yeah, funny story.
All right, I guess. Well, when I was in Port Huron, everybody knows about bus that Port Huron had. She's a real trooper. It lasted a good time. It actually I guess it wore out this recently, a few weeks ago here, so we hate to hear that. But we had just got it fixed again at this point in the season, and we went to go start our trip to Binghamton, and we were supposed to leave, I think, at midnight or something. And there was something wrong with, I don't know what's part of the system was wrong with it, but we ended up like till 3 or 4 in the morning. It was still hadn't left, and they were trying to get a guy to come out and do maintenance on the bus. And finally, they're just like, yeah, no, we can't take this bus. It's not happening. So we all had to drive ourselves to to Binghamton, go carpooled, and who can drive and do that. So staying up the whole time to learn that was tough. But yeah, that was definitely one of those. I call it like the Fed story. Yeah, there's so many types of those type of stories, and even different, even more, even different scenarios in this league for that. So
Yeah,
makes
you
you
always hear
laugh
the
at.
bus stories.
Yeah, it always makes you chuckle at the end of the day when some time passes and you look back on it. So that was probably the first time for me where I was like, like you said, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. But Greg, I have a few more questions for you before we wrap things up here. So do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to the next level?
I credit this for sure. Like when I was earlier on when I was younger, my dad at the time, he knew guys who were, since I'm 95, he knew guys like the guys in the coaching staff who were with the 93 birth years. And they had a scenario where a goalie went down for them. They're like, we need a guy for practice. Like, can you think Greg wants to come out? And it's like, oh yeah. At first I thought he was crazy. I was just like, these guys are just like, when you're young, they're like, they're so much bigger and all these harder shots, you're a little intimidated. But it was the best thing that I ever did. Seeing the harder shots, the older guys when you're, 2 years younger or whatever, even a year younger, that is such a valuable experience for when you go back to shoot, like guys shooting on you that are your own age. You're like, wow, kind of just waiting for the puck at this point. But yeah, I'd say go out and see the older shots. Don't ever think that you're above a team just because of their record.
Yeah.
If there's a team like that that's interested in you, that means that there's only opportunity there for you to see a lot of shots and just get better as a goalie and weather the storm and battle adversity. So those are definitely some valuable skills to have as a goaltender and just as a hockey player moving through the ranks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some great tips, and it's amazing to see like how much, or I shouldn't say easier, but like it's easier to track the puck as a goalie when the shots are a lot harder and a lot faster compared to like when I go skate with like the guys I skate with over the summer. Like it's quick, hard shots, and it's easy to track. But then when you go to beer league, like you have no idea where the shots are gonna go.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
You try to look at the blade, but then it could go that way, it could go that way, way, just anywhere.
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But my next question for you is what's your favorite and least favorite building to play in?
Well, aside from the Thunderdome here in Harrington, Delaware, gotta say that one. I really did enjoy playing home games in Port Huron when I was there. It's a really nice place. I like the seats on both sides. It's got like an arena feel to it. So I definitely liked home games there. Least favorite, yeah, probably I don't know. Binghamton's awesome, but I just no luck this year there. I don't know how tough goes there. But yeah. And then Danbury, I guess, too, just growing up in Connecticut and playing there when I was growing up a few times. You're like, yeah, it's, I know this place, nothing special to me, but they're loud there. I gotta say, they're crazy over there. So it's definitely always interesting when you go there.
There's some good rinks, but when you don't have good luck in those rinks, that's when they become your least favorite rinks.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna have that change pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But my last question for you is, what's your favorite pump up song? Like you're trying to get a lift in the gym, you're listening to this before pregame warm-ups, you're listening to this on the ice when you're actually in pregame warm-ups. Like what are you listening to?
I'm all over the place with music. I could do like a whole nother interview just about music, but just driving around with my dad and through travel hockey. Just he graduated high school in 1985, so I just all the rock and roll, man. I listen to stuff from like the 60s to the early 2000s, but anything Van Halen with David Lee Roth, though not with Sammy Hagar, that matters. A lot of any of those songs with David Lee Roth and Van Halen. I listen to actually lately a lot of Oasis. Rock and Roll Star by Oasis is, that just makes me want to run through a wall. And just when you're coming out of the tunnel, it's like if you're not doing one thing, what would you be doing? If I wasn't playing hockey, I'd want to be a rock and roll star. No doubt in my mind. It's a close second, though, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Those are some great songs, great playlists, great artists. Like anything that gets you going, like you're gonna run through a wall for that, and like it's gonna just get you that much more focused on the game when it comes to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to following your career the rest of the way. And good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, man. Likewise with you, Jack. I appreciate you having me on, boss. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.